Good afternoon, good afternoon. It's Kate Carruth here, your content alchemist, with some content gold to brighten your day. And today I'm sitting with Vicky Stokes, who is a brilliant marketer, and I'm going to let Vicky introduce herself in a moment. But we're going to be talking about content in the context of what Vicky does. So Vicky, thank you very much for being here today. Tell me first about you. You know the drill. Your name, your business, the kind of people you like to work with, all of those good things so that people know who we're talking to.
Thanks, Kate, and thank you for having me. So my name is Vicky Stokes. I am founder of Little Piggy Marketing. So I'm primarily a marketing consultancy, but my business has changed actually quite a lot since I started 5 years ago, which happens to the best of us. As we start working with clients, we decide that maybe our business needs to change a little bit. So I also do operate as an agency as well. So I work with other partners such as yourself, Kate, with some of my clients to provide sort of the whole marketing experience. I typically work with service-based clients, so that would be people that provide services like professional services, coaching, things like that, and those that typically are working on their own, so they might not have a marketing team and they want someone to come in and give them a little bit of guidance on their marketing.
And I have to ask, Little Piggy Marketing? What prompted that? Is this the little piggy that cried wee 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 all the way home? Because that's the bit that
so I get asked this question. This is the question I get asked the most out of everything else, is where's the name come from? So I love the colour pink. So if you haven't seen my branding as yet, it is very pink. So it's very me. I'm quite a bright and bubbly person, so that is me all over. I wanted something different that stood out, and I originally liked the idea of guinea pigs. So I was a bit obsessed with guinea pigs when I was younger, but it just didn't quite work. Just didn't quite work with marketing. And then I remembered that This Little Piggy Goes to Market, and that's where it came from. Yeah. Although I've never actually used that.
This Little Piggy went to market. Yes, of course. Of course. Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Yes, I suspected you might have been asked that question once or twice before.
Yeah, all the time.
But I had to find out. Okay, so let's start with a few basics. When I say content, what does that actually mean in your world?
So to me, content is more than what typically people think it is. So when I speak to my clients, they typically go straight to social media when they think about content.
Yep.
But for me, content is how your business communicates. So that can be in any different type of format. So that could be your website, emails, blogs, case studies, videos, podcasts, and your socials, like the LinkedIn.
Yep.
I think for me, it's not the marketing, it's how the marketing is delivered to your customers. And for me, in my world, is how it all fits together, I guess.
Yeah. So if we focus on, because obviously what Creative Words does is the written word. Mm-hmm. If we focus primarily on the kind of the written content and how that all fits, why is written words, why are they still important? And we've got video and we've got great graphics and AI does all sorts of things. And why written words? Why is that still relevant? Why does that still matter?
Well, I think it's specifically important for the digital age because yes, you can use things like video, but also you hear a lot about the algorithm and how that works, but it's working in our favour now. So there is the use of AI in positive and negative ways, and I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about AI later on.
Yes.
But the great thing about the written content is you can really describe someone's problems in a lot more depth. So when you understand your customer in real depth, you can create something that really they feel much more connected to. So take a case study, for example. You know, you could do a case study as a video, absolutely, but the detail isn't really often there because we all have a very short attention span. So that video might be 10, 15 seconds long. But a case study, you can read it, you want the detail. So if it's something that you're signing up to, spending money on as a service or a product, you're going to want to read that case study in a lot of detail.
Yeah.
And how you feel after you've read that is really important. And that really, I think, can only be translated in good content and good copy.
Great. Okay. So when it comes to to creating content, what are the obstacles that clients find? Where do they get stuck? What do they find the most difficult when it comes to communicating their business?
So I think sometimes it's understanding that your content doesn't always have to sell. So some people think that you always have to be saying to people, like, this is what we do, and have a list of their services or their product, and then talk about that. They'll often find that what they are trying to tell people is actually different to what people want to hear. So when you start going into detail and saying, actually, your customers want you to tell them and educate them on what you're doing, it might not be that you're going to sell to them, but actually they need you to do that. And then you then start to understand your key messaging. Big thing is time and resource. So I find that a lot of businesses just don't have the time to sit and write something, or they might not have the talent internally. So those that I work with are typically people that work on their own business and they do everything. Yeah. And actually writing something or creating something is not something that they're very confident to do themselves, and they need someone to guide them.
Yeah, okay. So I that resonates. Obviously, we are both quite small business owners. But we're in that same position that you have to do everything yourself. But the communication side for me, obviously, is less difficult, but there are other things which I just find really quite a challenge.
Yeah, we all do. We can't be good at everything, right?
So there are a few things that other people might help me with. So, but I like that thing about it doesn't always have to be selling, because I think that I see that as well. I see people with this view. There's a saying. There used to be a saying in probably that came out of the corporate world about always be selling. I don't know where that came from, but it was this mindset of you should always be selling all of the time. Everything you do is selling. And I think that feels quite uncomfortable, particularly when you're in your first few years in a business, because you don't want to be going out and using those kinds of sales tactics if that's not your natural style. Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective that I'd not thought about before, that people come to content and think about that. So.
And people don't like to be sold to. I think we've got to an age where we're consuming so much content now, and we get fed up with being sold to.
Yeah.
So I think it's building and nurturing your audience and building their trust through content that is not sales content.
Yes, definitely. So we've mentioned it already. Let's just talk a little bit more about AI, which 3 years ago, we hadn't even really, we knew what it was, but it hadn't really hit the world. And then suddenly November 2023 and ChatGPT arrives and everything seems to have changed. So why not just get AI to do it all for us? Why bother with human written content? Yeah. And you are allowed to be honest, by the way. If you say, oh, no, just use AI, I'm not going to cut you off or anything.
No, I don't think you should use AI. Don't do it. I don't think AI is the problem. I think it's expecting AI to do all of the thinking for you. So it's a great assistant. It's great at. So I encourage my clients to use it, but I also then teach them how to use it effectively.
Right.
How to use it effectively. Once, let's say, you've got your marketing strategy and you've got we call them client personas. They're like stereotypical people that you sell to.
What I call a target audience,
Yeah, exactly. So once you've got familiar with that, what your key messaging should be, and you need some ideas for some content. So you want to say to ChatGPT, Claude, whatever AI it is that you're using, if you're using a language model like that, and you might say to it, this is my audience, this is my strategy, these are my objectives, and this is what I want to focus on. Give me some ideas for my content over the next month or two.
Yep.
Fantastic. Use it for that. Use it for productivity. Get it to help you write emails that are really straightforward back to clients that don't involve any of your knowledge or your specialism. If it's just literally writing emails, if it's organising your time, absolutely use it. If it's to put calendars together with content that you've already got, absolutely, I think it's fantastic. Do I think you should use it to create you a blog? No, absolutely not.
Right.
Do I think you should use it for putting together a social caption? yes, to start, but you must edit it and you must make sure it sounds like yourself. You must make sure that it's actually SEO optimized, as we call it in marketing. So it's built for search engines. So there's a lot of thinking that goes behind it. I think it's a starting point. I think, and I certainly would put myself in this boat as well, is AI is so new to all of us. Yeah. And I think that we've only touched the surface of what it can do. So I think it has its place, and I think that it will improve in time and probably become a much better tool than it already is already. But I think it's also quite dangerous, because what I'm typically seeing is everything looks the same. And I think the biggest thing I say to people with their marketing is I talk about what makes them different and what makes them stand out. And if you are using ChatGPT to write your captions, so are your competitors.
So,
and if I see another one of those AI posters that are going online, it's so tricky, because I totally get it. When you don't have the budget for a designer, I totally understand that it's a really good route to get what you want. However,
that said, the cost of a designer to do you half a dozen Canva templates into which you can put your own, that are on brand, that are your messaging, that are your style, that you like, it's not exorbitant. And it's because it's a template, it's a one-time investment.
No,
it is actually possible to do that. So
I think it's probably more the community groups, the volunteer groups, that I can understand using them a little bit more. But there's also some fantastic ways to use the free Canva account that you have, and you can actually export some of these posters from ChatGPT and then amend them to make them more on brand.
Yeah.
So again,
we talk about Canva. Canva's got an in-house AI as well, but paid for, isn't it? That's through the pro account, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think there is some features that are paid for.
Yeah.
There are ways around it, but then I also think that actually it's knowing how to do that, and not everybody does. So I think it's trying to make those things more accessible for people. And just, again, this is why I go to designers and say to them, like, you need to educate people in why they need it to be on brand. Like, compare
why brand
them.
Like,
absolutely. Blame people for doing that. Let's face it, if you can make your job a little bit easier, especially if you're a volunteer, it's tricky, isn't it?
It is. It's not a simple subject. As we're recording this, which is the summer of 2026, there seems to be at the moment one of the it's kind of clickbaity things that's going around on LinkedIn, is to hammer people using AI or praise people using AI. So they should, you, shouldn't you? And here's my opinion. Some of it is quite aggressive in its style.
I saw your comment the other day.
So I
on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn itself has introduced something where you can tag a post and say, this looks like AI slop. And I've objected to it, not necessarily because you should be able to tag something if you think it's AI or not. That, in one sense, that's not the problem. It's the incredibly negative language being used. It's like saying, I'm reporting this because I don't like you. I think your nose is big, or you're something like that. And it's an unnecessarily unpleasant approach. And that's wound me up. Because actually, if somebody else chooses to use AI and it all looks the same, there's obviously impacts on their business. But that's their decision, not mine. Yeah. And actually, with all social media, if you don't like it, scroll on. Just don't engage with it. Just move to the next post. Look at something you do. This kind of this need that seems to have come up in social media, that if you don't like it, you've got to say something. You can disagree. If you don't agree with an opinion, then yes, do enter into the conversation. But just not liking something and then slating somebody because you don't is winding me up, because I think it's unnecessary and it's unkind. We're all trying to do our best. So
it's almost like they're aligning misinformation with AI, which
Yeah.
I know is one of the big problems with AI, and that again is one of the reasons why I would not use AI as I certainly wouldn't create something on AI and say it's my work.
Yeah.
And I certainly wouldn't rely on AI. I know people tend to put information and try and get legal advice from it and medical
Isn't that
advice and
frightening?
things like that. But
Legal
I don't
advice,
know people,
medical advice,
Yeah.
mental health advice.
I
That
don't know
frightens me.
if people realise that at the moment things like ChatGPT are only just as good as the information we're putting into them. So we are feeding the
Yeah.
machine. But again, it's so early, I think, in the journey of AI. So I agree with you. I agree.
You may not. I think you're probably a bit younger than me, and you may not remember when Wikipedia first emerged. And
I do remember Wikipedia, but not when it first came about.
When
but I do
Wikipedia
remember
first
being told
emerged,
to be
there
careful.
was a huge amount of concern about misinformation of Wikipedia. And in fact, in the end, Wikipedia took steps to make sure that the quality of the information was worthwhile. And you still get people going in and changing things, and but there was a time when it wasn't reliable at all because
No.
people were just playing games with it. But it probably took 10 years to be a point where Wikipedia was considered a reputable source of information. For anyone who's been listening to this, who is struggling with their content, who feels they know they want to be doing something or more than they're doing, what's one tip that you can give them?
I think it's not to pressure yourself to be everywhere all at once. I think a lot of people feel like they need to be doing a blog, they need to be making sure their website's perfect, they need to be making sure that they're on every social media channel. I think it's consistency, and whatever that looks like for you is absolutely fine. I think it's working with someone like myself and understanding what the most important piece of content maybe is for you, and just having that as a starting point. So looking at, okay, what are we trying to achieve as a business, and actually what channels are going to get us there based on where our audience are. So where are the decision makers? Are they on LinkedIn? If they are, then that's possibly a channel that we should focus on. Are they going to be sat reading case studies? Actually no, because these might be busy people that actually don't have a huge amount of time. So okay, maybe we put that on the back burner for now, and maybe think about doing that later on, because although they might not read it, someone that influences them might. A junior member of their staff might read them. But then I would deprioritise that slightly. What does consistency look like on socials? If it's 2 to 3 times a week, then make it 2 to 3 times a week. Don't worry if it's not every day, because being visible doesn't mean being everywhere. That's probably the biggest thing that I want people to know, is that you can be successful without being on every single channel and doing all of the marketing.
Yeah, great advice. And if anyone's listening to this and thinks, oh, Vicky sounds like just the right person to help me grow my business, they want to know more, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So they can have a look on my website at littlepiggymarketing.co.uk.
Yep.
My email address is info@littlepiggymarketing.co.uk, and all of my contact details are on my website as well.
Great.
And you can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook, again under the same name. You should be able to find me through searching on both of those channels.
Fab. And we will include all of that information on the show notes as well. So it'll all be there under. It's below me on YouTube, isn't it? But if I'm on Facebook, it'll be up there somewhere. So who knows? So Vicky, thank you very much for your time today. It's been really fantastic. I've had a great conversation with you. But we've gone completely off script, I know. But it was really good to have that conversation. Thank you everyone who has tuned in to watch this. We will be back with more insights into content and more interviews very soon. But for now, have a golden afternoon.